Join us every Friday night at midnight for Spook House Radio Live, where we cover everything paranormal. And we've got 2 news shows on alternating Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern. First, we've got a new horror show, I'll Podcast on Your Grave, where we discuss everything horror and entertainment. And Retro After Dark, where we take on everything from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, cartoons, movies, video games, and more. So tune into all of our shows. Keep in touch and get the schedule at midnightspookhouse.com, Twitter at The Spook House, and Facebook at The Midnight Spook House. Hello. How we doing out there? Ryan, how are you doing, man?
I am amazing.
You are amazing. And I'm Dale, of course, and we're excited to be live again. I know that on Wednesday night's show, and if you missed that, that's our new horror show. We'll talk more about that later. We were excited for tonight's show, and we didn't have a theme, but alas, here we are, and we do have a theme. Cryptozoology. What a cool theme. Ryan, actually, you kind of came up with that one tonight. What possessed you to come forth with that?
Well, I think it's one of the more niche realms of the paranormal, I think, because it's something that really anybody can go out into the field and kind of experience for themselves. Yeah. I've talked to several people that have experienced things firsthand.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. We need to get some of those people on. Can we?
We do.
Yeah, can we get some? Let's get some of those people on. Okay, sweet.
Absolutely. So tonight, I thought we would just kind of broadly cover cryptozoology and what it is, and kind of talk about some of the more common examples, and the intro or the beginner's guide to it, if you will.
Ooh, I like it. The beginner's guide to cryptozoology.
And then if I can grab some of those people that have had personal experiences, we can visit the subject again and hear their tales.
Yeah. Dude, that'd be great. I would love to hear from them. So if you're listening right now and you have a tale, please do call us. Email us, whatever you feel comfortable with. But yeah, we're excited about tonight. We were talking about it earlier, just he and I, and it turns out we like this subject more than maybe I thought I did, at least. So this is going to be fun.
It's not something you hear in the news a lot.
It's not. That's true.
Not a lot of credible sort of stories pop up.
Yeah, that's one of the big things, isn't it? It's credibility.
Yeah. Which the same thing could be said about UFOs and ghosts and everything.
Yeah.
Really, you've just got to keep an open mind.
Yeah,
as we've been pushing.
That's the subject that we deal with, or the subjects within the realm of paranormal that we deal with. So tonight, I want to say up front that if you're listening on mixlr.com, you have lots of other options. This week we're actually going live on Spreaker, which is kind of neat. We're going on Spreaker and MixLR. All right. There's apps for both, and there's websites for both. And I'm not going to go ahead and go through all that, but we're going to try this maybe again next week, and we'll see how it works. So yeah, tune in however you want. We're trying to give you plenty of options we're
just trying to figure out what the best thing for you guys is. Really.
Yeah, let's make it easy and fun. So, well, I mean, that's a pretty good intro. I think that sums up what we're going to do. Let's get to some news, Ryan. That sounded like a yes.
Yeah.
Let's do it. So go ahead. You go ahead. Kick it off, man.
Okay, so the first thing that I have is not really so much news or a particular happening or anything, just kind of a neat thing that I found. And to anybody living in Tyler, Texas, shout out to you guys.
Yeah.
'Cause that's what I'm talking about. But Tyler, Texas is apparently a city that's very into the paranormal.
Oh.
Now, when summer comes around for most of us, you think about, barbecues and going to the lake, things like that.
Oh yeah, the
Fun
good stuff.
summer activities.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for the folks of this city, they like to kick things off with a paranormal sort of vibe. When summertime rolls around, they like to begin what they call ghost walks. They have haunted tours, things like that. Their local library even puts together some presentations and different, I guess you could call it like a study group kind of a thing.
That's neat.
Basically, they put all of their paranormal literature out to the forefront to try to get people in and do research on this stuff. I love
that.
So, very cool place to visit.
Who says the South is closed-minded? That proves we're not. Not all of us, anyway. That's really cool.
They are also home to a paranormal convention. And let's see, I wrote down the name of the con. I want to say it's just Paranormal Con.
Hey, to the point. There's nothing wrong with that.
Let's see, yeah. Oh, what did they call it? Yeah, it's just Paranormal Con. Now, unfortunately, we've missed that. They usually have that towards the end of April. Mm-hmm. But they get a lot of speakers in to talk about everything, really. They've even got like a group that's interested in vampires and things like that.
Wow, okay. That's a show I'm excited for, I want to say. Yeah. Yeah,
you wouldn't think that there's much truth to that, but certain research has shown otherwise.
Yeah, there's a lot of history to it.
We'll leave it kind of mysterious.
Yeah.
for that show.
Sounds good.
So yeah, Tyler, Texas. Shout out to, paranormal fans that live there. Sounds like a cool city to be in.
It does.
Summertime. Like I said, that was ghost walks. They have haunted tours, haunted house tours.
I want to be there.
Sounds like a good time.
Yeah, I want to be down there. That sounds like a lot of fun, man. There's stuff around here, but it sounds like they're wholeheartedly embracing it almost as a town. That is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to flip the script onto something silly first. I just saw this story and I could not talk about it for a minute. It's probably more suited to one of our other shows, but so our Californian Spencer White wrestles with the idea of purchasing a DeLorean like from Back to the Future for many years.
Nice. Haven't we all?
After he finally did decide to buy, he took the inevitable next step. And guess what he did?
I'm going to guess he tried to time travel in some way.
He did. He went and he took it straight up to 88 miles per hour.
What I mean by that is, yes, exactly.
And guess what happened then? After doing that for all of about 2 seconds, a cop rolls up behind him and ruins it.
At least he didn't crash the thing.
It's true. The cop apparently...
They total a DeLorean trying to...
Oh, that'd be the worst. So the cop apparently did have a sense of humor, but he got ticketed anyway. And he says maybe, just maybe, it was because he lacked the flux capacitor. Oh. Forgot a main ingredient.
So he did all of this, but he didn't have a flux capacitor?
Right. It was all, dude. I mean, come on, common sense, right?
Well, no wonder it didn't work.
Yeah. Right there. Yeah, see, the cop wouldn't have mattered if he would have had it because then he would have just been gone. Wouldn't have mattered a bit. So
I would have told the cop, listen, we can do one of two things. You can either tear up this ticket now, or I'm going to go get my flux capacitor, and I'm going to prevent this from happening.
Right. I'm going to do this again. It's going to work, and I'm going to go back, and I'm going to do something to make your life different.
Now, that could be taken as a threat, though.
I guess that's true. Yeah, he's not going to get a flux capacitor from prison. So, but you know what? That'd be a really good way to deal with somebody. You could do just literally anything. Am I still on? Yeah, you're on. We got you.
Okay. Kind of skipped out for a moment.
Yeah, the internet will do that.
There always seems to be something trying to keep us from talking about the paranormal.
There is. Maybe
someone out there's listening.
Maybe it's Bigfoot listening. Or maybe that's just my transition to the next news story.
Or maybe it's the CIA.
Oh, yeah.
Stealing their documents.
That's true. Stealing them off their website. So, speaking of Bigfoot, let's head over to Wednesday night in Latah County, Ohio, where a woman claims that Bigfoot caused her to wreck her car. Mean old Bigfoot. She says she glanced in her mirror to get a look at the creature and ended up hitting a deer. No major injuries were incurred, and the local police officers to which she filed the report could not find any proof one way or the other. Bigfoot's always up to no good. You can't catch him.
Did she wreck her car because she was looking at Bigfoot, or did the deer stop in the middle of the road because it was looking at Bigfoot?
Probably both. They were probably both looking at Bigfoot.
Bigfoot, you're a strange thing.
You're a strange one.
You need to just come out. Make yourself known.
Come hang out.
Things like this won't happen.
Think about Harry and the Hendersons. I mean, you could potentially be leaving it up. And I want to say it's a shame that those cops did not have proof, because, transition into the next part, $1 million is being offered if you can find proof that leads to the capture. A group called Bigfoot Project Investments Incorporated has reportedly offered a cool $1 million to anyone that can offer up evidence leading to the capture. Apparently, the offer is open currently to anyone out there who can get the results, and it ends on Christmas Day. Could be a good Christmas Day.
Well, that's one direct way to go about it.
Sure, yeah.
We'll just throw money at the problem.
That's exactly what I was going to say. That's what we do in this country, right?
Can Bigfoot take the prize if he turns himself in?
I don't know. If he does, he'll have to pay for that lady's car, so I'm not sure it'll pay off in the end.
Oh yeah. I wonder how many Bigfoot related accidents there are out there.
I wonder that too. Just in general, one of the things I've always wondered, out in the desert, it's so mysterious with the aliens and the creatures and things, that I bet a lot of accidents have happened because of things like that. Lizard
people, skinwalkers.
It's amazing.
The desert's
man.
A scary place at night.
It is. It's pretty terrifying. I have a pretty cool piece of news out of California. It says, according to KTLA News, the California Department of Fish and Wildlife is investigating after a mysterious ape-like creature was captured on cell phone video recently in the foothills. There we go again. It's cell phone video. But guess what? This is not the potato you normally speak of. But it was near the foothills of a hiking trail in La Crescenta, not far away from the 210 freeway. Jake Gardner, who works near the area, spotted the animal while taking a stroll through the woods on his lunch break. At first, I heard a bunch of strange noises in the trees, he says. Figured it was just some types of birds or something like that. You can definitely see a torso and four limbs moving around and swinging around, he said. It's a pretty obvious kind of motion. And these animals are incredibly strong, and they can very easily kill or seriously injure a person because if it turns out to be an ape, the animal is scared, hungry, and out of its element. Hewen told KTLA it's possible that it was someone's illegal pet, and he said that after being asked if an ape could end up out there. I mean, I guess it's possible, but they've actually said that it's safe to go back in the woods for now. I'm not sure I would take them at their word, though. They didn't say that it wasn't there, or they didn't say that it was there, but they didn't catch it either. That's kind of how I feel about it.
I don't know. I just watched Predator again earlier, and
oh yeah,
not sure how I feel about strange noises flying
That's
through the
weird.
trees.
I was watching that earlier. It was on IFC, so
nice.
Yeah, we watched it the same day and didn't even know. How nice.
Always got to tune in for Predator.
Of course, yeah. You see Predator.
Any day is a Predator Day.
That's right. Every day is Predator Day. So some pretty interesting news happening out there. Lots of Bigfoot and apparently an ape-like creature that could just be an ape. They think.
That's about as likely as Bigfoot itself, though.
Right. Well, by the way, I want to say that the video is posted on the website for the news station. I will link to it on midnightspookhouse.com.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and then you can check it out and see what you think about it.
Let's do some video analysis.
Yes, let's analyze
frame by frames. So I've got one more story, and this will kind of lead us into our main topic.
You're going off the script, sir. I like it. I'm excited. Let's do it.
So I don't know if it's really news because it happened over a year ago.
Hmm.
This went down in August of 2016, but it's related to one of the creatures we're going to be speaking about tonight, and
Okay.
that would be the Loveland Frogman. So when I was brushing up on my research on the Frogman itself, I came across this story I thought was interesting, because a lot of the stories you hear about the Frogman are your basic kind of Bigfoot sighting. You
Hmm.
know, we were out and about and saw one, yada yada. So this has become kind of a famous story up there with the original sightings that we'll talk about later. So this happened in August of 2016 during the big Pokemon Go craze. So a fellow named Sam Jacobs and his girlfriend, they were out playing Pokemon Go in Loveland, which is in Ohio, and they caught sight of what they called a really large frog in like a I don't know if it was really a swamp area, but a pond or by a river or whatever.
Hmm.
So they caught sight of this thing, and at first they were like, "Wow, that's a really big frog." And then apparently it stood up on its hind legs when it noticed
Ooh.
them,
Yeah.
and kind of. So, dude, that's not a polyworld. That's a freaking Battletoad.
That's what I was gonna say. Is Pimple there? Jesus.
So it noticed them, stands up, and starts walking back into the water and disappeared. What's significant about the story is, they're I forget what age they were. They're younger kids, or teenagers, I guess you would say.
Hmm.
They had never heard of the Frogman legends that kind of go with the urban legends that kind of go with the parts around there.
Right.
So they run home kind of frantic, and they tell their story, and their parents or whoever were like, "Oh, you saw the Frogman," and then they kind of let them in on the whole legend about it.
Huh.
So I thought that was interesting that they kind of happened upon this thing accidentally. They didn't really even know what they were seeing.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be something to go home and be like, I thought I saw something, Dad. Oh, that was the goat man. He's a demon. He's
Yeah.
a demonic goat who eats souls. It's like, wow, Dad knows about that. That must be for real. Yeah, if it's not a battle toad, that's scary.
So he said that it fit the description of the original legends.
Hmm.
I guess we could say it stood about 4 feet tall on its hind legs. Looked to be a 7,500 pound creature.
Wow.
So
Jesus.
that's a big frog.
Yeah. I was kind of picturing like Creature from the Black Lagoon for a minute with the gills. I don't know. That's the first water creature I go to, I guess.
Yeah,
But that's
classic.
very different. That is very different. Well, so I assume that's a fairly well known thing around, and not something I'm aware of. But so, do you have
Well,
more on that, or do we need to explore that later? And I just mean
well,
the Frogman in general.
yeah, we can talk more about the Frogman.
Okay.
When we kind of dive into cryptids in a few
Okay.
minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's all I've got for news.
Yay! We're through the part where we're going to teach you something. We'll get to the part where hopefully you guys can interact with us. Well, I'll tell you what, we've got a couple of new shows and we've talked about them a little bit. Hey, Ryan, I think this is a good spot before we hit another promo real fast. Tell them what's coming up next week. I always do hey, here's what's coming up, and I feel like the ad guy. So,
No problem.
yeah.
So next week, coming up this Wednesday, that'll be at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, we're doing our next spin-off show, which is called Retro After Dark.
Ooh.
Now, that takes a different spin on things. It's going to be based more on 70s, 80s, and 90s pop culture, which can be anything from action figures and toys to video games, movies, really anything we want from those decades.
Yeah.
So we're kind of with that show, we're moving away from the paranormal and horror aspects that we usually talk about, and we're going to keep things fun.
We are.
As if they're not already fun, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. If you listen to the show Wednesday that we did this past Wednesday, which was the I'll Podcast on Your Grave, it was our horror show. This is the first episode. So we had Skeletor come in and do a promo. And in case you missed it, I'm going to go ahead and hit you up with that one again, because that was a lot of fun. What do you think? That one? Or do you want to do Sandman? I'm going to leave it to you.
Yeah, let's hear from Skeletor again.
Yeah, you can't beat Skeletor. All right, so we're going to hear from Skeletor, and we shall return momentarily and get to the night's subjects.
Listen up, you brainless boob. Do you enjoy talking about 80s action figures and toys? Perhaps your favorite is the Snake Mountain playset. If that's the case, tune into the Retro After Dark radio show, broadcasting every other Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. For more details, check show times at midnightspookhouse.com. It's one you won't want to miss, you pea-brain nitwit.
House Radio.
Yeah, you brainless boob. He came in and
Skeletor.
Yeah, he had to come in and insult everyone, and that's all right, 'cause he's fun. But yeah, so we've got a lot of cool shows coming up, but let's focus on tonight for now. And tonight's main subject, as we discussed before, is cryptozoology and cryptids, which is a really cool word. And cryptids, of course, are essentially the monsters of. I see in chat tonight we have Loch Ness. We have Nessie with us. So it's the perfect episode. Welcome Nessie and Mookie Mook, and there's someone else somewhere that I can't see their name, but welcome everyone. Yeah, Ryan, what is your favorite, do you think? Like what if you said that I could pick one to be real, what would be your favorite? Which one would you want the legends to be true?
Well, before we jump into that, let me kind of lay down what cryptozoology is. For anybody that's not really familiar with the term itself. So cryptozoology is the study basically of cryptids. Now, what a cryptid is a creature whose existence has been suggested but has not been discovered or documented by the scientific community. So in other words, we talk about it, we see things, we hear things, but there's no proof yet.
So would aliens and ghosts fall under cryptids?
Possibly. So some people argue that fact.
Okay, all right. So I guess I learned something with you guys. If you learned something, I did. I actually never thought of aliens and ghosts that way. But hey, that's, I guess, technically by definition. Go ahead.
I mean, some cryptids have become, real, I guess, examples of the, I don't know, what's the normal animal kingdom called? Zoology?
I suppose so. Yeah.
Because that makes too much sense. For example, there was in the I believe it was the 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
There was tales of I guess the term ape-like creature didn't exist back then, but there was some kind of hairy, man-like animal that terrorized villages, and people used the tales of this creature, much like our local wood booger, to keep the kids from staying out too late at night. They would say, it'll, if you're out past curfew, it'll come snatch you away and eat you or whatever.
Right.
And there was an account of one of them killing a few people, and there was even an account of one of them stealing a baby.
Wow. Okay.
And fleeing into the forest. So there were all these stories and accounts for years of this thing, and it turned out to be real.
Huh.
And that it is now called the gorilla.
Okay, well.
So there you learn something.
Yes. So it can, So technically, any of these things, like if we discovered Bigfoot and we brought him in and we learned about him, he would no longer be a cryptid, right? Because he wouldn't be just suggested anymore. He'd be for sure real.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, that's pretty much where that goes then. All right, cool. I actually didn't know that. We didn't discuss it before the show. I like to learn along with everyone else.
Yeah, so it's not just your usual theories and things like that. People that really studies cryptozoology and are hardcore enthusiasts about it. Some people consider them real scientists studying the field. They're not. They're out to prove the existence of these things and bring them to the catalog of known creatures.
I dig that. It makes it very different from the other things we discussed. That's really cool. It's like they're reaching for those answers and they want them. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's not something within the paranormal realm that happens too often. I mean, you've got investigators and things, but when science is actually trying to find them, it's by definition, essentially, we would love to prove one way or the other. That's cool.
Right.
Yeah. So tell us more. This is, again, Ryan picked a subject and it's a fun one. So I want you to lead us.
Well, you asked the question, what my favorite would be. And gosh, I think my favorite to hear about and to read about is possibly the Mothman.
Oh, mine too. Yeah.
Now, he kind of sways between the realm of, this could be some kind of animal and this could be, a supernatural entity. May
I actually tell the story of behind the Mothman? Would that be?
Please, yeah, that would be a great place to start. That's one of my personal favorites. So
okay,
let's hear about the Mothman, everyone.
So behind the legend, it is told, on December 15th, 1967, the Silver Bridge, a suspension bridge connecting Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and Gallipolis, Ohio. I'm sorry if I said that wrong. Collapsed, killing 46 people. Spanning the Ohio River, this Ibar chain bridge, built in 1928, met its fate during rush hour as people were returning home from work and families were going into town to begin their Christmas shopping. That's tragic. What caused this well-traveled bridge to collapse wasn't a mystery. It was a defect. One of the Ibar links caused a crack to form, which led to the catastrophe. The real mystery was the appearance of a strange visitor sighted several times by the citizens of Point Pleasant during the months leading up to it. The strange visitor was known as the Mothman. The Mothman first made it into the news on November 16, 1966, when the Point Pleasant Register reported couple sees man-sized bird, creature, something. Point Pleasant residents Stephen Mary Millette, along with Roger and Linda Scarberry, were driving near the McClinty Wildlife Reserve on West Virginia Route 62 when they crested a hill and came face to face with the creature they claimed was 7 feet tall with large red eyes and a 10-foot wingspan. Swerving around the creature, they attempted to drive away. However, seconds later, they found the Mothman was back in front of their car. This is reminding me of Jeepers Creepers. I'm going to continue to read, but Jesus. More frightened than ever, the two married couples headed back for town, traveling almost 100 miles per hour. All the while, the creature cruised along the ground right behind them, and in some instances, swiftly soaring 50 feet above their car. As the car turned on a farm road, the creature once again managed to block their path. This time it laid in the road like a lump resembling a dead dog, as though it were waiting for someone to step out of the car and investigate. Not wanting to fall for what may have been a trap, they backed up and made their way out of town. Later that night, they returned to the farm road, this time with Deputy Sheriff. The lump in the road was gone, but they did find a strange pile of dust in its place. This wasn't the first time, actually, that this strange being had been seen. On November 12, 1966, grave diggers working in Clendenin, West Virginia, claimed to have seen the half-man, half-moth creature flying through the trees just above their heads. And it goes on, but that's where it comes from.
Yeah, I think that's the first documented sighting of the Mothman, is that 1966, I think you said, incident where it was 5 men and they were digging a grave.
Right.
They were grave diggers in a cemetery, and it just soared over their heads.
Yeah,
it didn't really stop or anything like that. They described it as a man-like bird creature.
Right. Yeah, if you've seen Jeepers Creepers, I mean, it's heavily influenced, obviously, by the Mothman. Talking about laying in the road and things. I mean, it's perfect.
Have you seen the Mothman prophecies?
I have. It is
Based on the Mothman?
It's insane, right? You've seen it, haven't you?
Yeah, I really enjoyed that movie.
Yeah. That's what Ashton Kutcher even.
Was he in it?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know, but it was a great movie. That's all I can remember for sure. I haven't seen it in a while, but I've always been so intrigued by the Mothman. It's a very realistic one. You know, you get all these off reports about things like Bigfoot, but then the Mothman, it's very serious.
They say that a lot of paranormal happenings kind of follow the Mothman around whenever people start seeing the Mothman again. And, you know, sightings still happen here and there. I think a lot of people aren't really sure what they're seeing.
Yeah.
But even things like UFOs, you know, people will see the Mothman and then, you know, days later they'll start seeing things in the skies too. So some people argue that whatever this thing is could be extraterrestrial too.
Mm-hmm. I can definitely see that.
Other people say whatever it is like an extra dimensional being.
What am I thinking about
actually,
with Ashton Kutcher? I'm sorry. Go ahead. I was thinking out loud. Go ahead.
It was Richard Gere that starred in that movie.
That's right. Yeah, Mookie Mook says it was Richard Gere, and that movie scared them very much. I totally agree. I'm going to look up Ashton Kutcher. So you go ahead and continue.
So some people would argue, you know, if you think of him as an extra dimensional being, some people argue that the appearance of the Mothman is kind of a warning of bad things to come. That whatever this creature is, he's trying to help us or warn us about something bad that's about to happen. Right. And that kind of explains what happened with the Silver Bridge collapsing.
I've heard that, yeah. And that was the butterfly effect, by the way, with Ashton Kutcher. Also a great movie.
You were. That's a good movie, too. You were way off.
That's actually a thing. We need to talk about that at a different show. So go ahead with the Mothman. I'm sorry, everybody. Not Ashton Kutcher. Richard Gere.
So, I guess I'm sort of in the camp of whatever this is. He's some kind of extra dimensional being.
Yeah.
So
a lot of the stories are definitely not natural, you know. And it's funny because I've heard the same thing, you know, believe how you want, but people say that about angels. Like, you know, you'll see them in the days before something happens. Right. And the wings, and I don't know. You wonder how these things correlate, but.
Could he be an angel?
Sure. I mean, I suppose.
The weird moth-looking angel.
Yeah, the not heavenly-looking angel at all.
Could be.
Yeah, never know, I suppose. So, as far as the Mothman goes, I think it's almost superstitious. Is that fair to say? You know, like
a little bit. I can see that.
I'm not saying that it's not real. Just superstition goes along with it, I think.
See, there are two camps of people that were really that kind of, I guess, argue over possession of the Mothman. Mm-hmm. In the field of cryptozoology, the Mothman is kind of regarded as some kind of creature, you know, along the lines of Bigfoot or any of the other creatures we'll end up talking about. Whatever this is, it's a bipedal, you know, 7-foot tall thing with, you know, a 10-foot wingspan, and it's capable of flight. And that's really all there is to it. It's some kind of unknown creature. Where on the other end of the spectrum, you've got people, and this is where I fall when we're talking about the Mothman. I think there's more to it. There's more of a supernatural aspect to the Mothman itself. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. I'm interested to hear what our listeners think, what side they fall on. Is this just a creature that's unknown to science, uncatalogued, and thus falls under cryptozoology, or is he a visitor from another planet, another dimension? What do you think?
That's a great question. I certainly, I think I lean personally the direction that, I guess it could fall in either one. I often find myself seeing the upsides of both sides, but On this one, I definitely think it could be extraterrestrial. That's kind of my feeling on it.
Because for every account that you have of the Mothman where somebody sees the Mothman and then weird or bad events follow, there are just as many accounts where people have just seen this thing, much like you would a Bigfoot. You know, I just saw something, I can't explain what it was.
Right.
Well, is this some kind of creature?
I mean, essentially it is a UFO. It's an unidentified flying object. So
basically, yeah.
Yeah. So if you get it to basics, I don't know. I don't think a lot of people are going to like the first one I dug up to talk about.
Well, let's hear it. What do you got?
I don't know how to pronounce it. It's J''BA, Fofi, Fofi, also known as the Congolese giant spider.
Ooh.
It's a specimen of spider-like cryptids that are said to inhabit the forests of the Congo. They also possibly represent a new species of arachnid. Now, stay with me. We haven't got there yet. Giant spider. Now, you remember I said giant spider. Right. These things are not just big. They're absolutely huge. And there's actually reports from Uganda in the 1890s that they had seen them. It says missionary Arthur Symes from England was on an expedition to a village near Lake Nyassa, when several of his porters became ensnared by a huge web that had been strung up in the forest. They were then attacked by several large spiders and were bitten. And then you skip 58 years forward to the Congo, and Reginald and Marguerite Lloyd were driving a Ford truck through a trail when they reportedly spotted the spider as large as a monkey. It resembled a tarantula, but had an estimated leg span of 5 feet. Their daughter, Marguerite Lloyd, would later relate this story in the 1990s to William Gibbons. And it goes on, and then they're saying basically that this web, it's easily big enough to, as you heard, take men 10 to 15 feet, huge network, absolutely gigantic network of webbing, unlike anything ever seen. And it says that their eggs are a pale yellow, white, and shaped like peanuts. Natives claim the hatchlings are bright yellow with a purple abdomen. Their coloration becomes darker and brown as they mature. And there are a lot of natives to the Congo who swear by it. And they're not like the people who's, I saw a UFO, interview me on Facebook, or let me talk to you about my story. This is people who don't care about the internet, you know?
Right.
Certainly no offense to them. There's plenty of people in the Congo probably online, but I'm saying this is like native villagers. They do not care about our Facebooks and things. So I tend to
fame from this, in other words.
Exactly. I tend to think a lot more of opinions from there. No offense to anyone. We love all the stories, but you really, really have to question why in that scenario.
Absolutely. And this kind of sounds like one of the things that we may eventually find, and it becomes, something in the zoology catalog. Now,
sure.
they find new species all the time in the jungle and the rainforest and everything. And they've actually found, I think officially, the biggest spider they've ever found has been the size of a small dog. So there are large spiders out there.
There sure are.
Will we encounter the giant spider?
I hope not. I mean, I wouldn't mind if someone did. Who dares to go into the jungle to find it? They say that they used to be plentiful, but now they're a fairly rare sight, which has its ups and its downs.
Well,
go ahead.
Larger, and it could be, just the way our world is changing, with climate and everything, really. If you look at like the megalodon shark, which also some people believe is still around and would thus fall into the cryptid category. Now, in prehistoric times, it actually was real, but what you find was that slowly it evolved into a smaller form. What we have is the great white shark now, just because the food sources weren't as plentiful. so it thus became smaller to account for that. So it could be a similar situation with this giant spider. We might have these giant creatures, and as they procreate, maybe their children are becoming smaller as the years go on.
Mm-hmm. Could be.
But as we know, evolution takes millions of years, so that gives us a pretty good chance still to find the giant spider in the jungle one day.
Well, it's not just the jungle. In 1948, actually, in Leesville, Louisiana, William Slade and his grandchildren were walking north on Highway 171 to church when he motioned them to stop. After hearing a rustling in the bushes ahead, a spider described as the size of a wash tub emerged and crossed the road. One of the grandchildren later told the story to his own son, Todd Partain, director of the documentary film Eyes in the Dark, The Sasquatch Experience. Oh, so we could potentially have had or have now such a thing in the United States. Enjoy that, kids. That's fun, right? About as fun as the flying snakes I heard of last year. That's fun too.
Right. Just keep an eye out for those webs when you're taking a stroll through the woods.
Yeah, that's not something you want to run into at all. So, well, do you have any more as far as a favorite, or do you just want to transition to another topic?
Well, doing my research, the Frogman is actually warming up to me.
Yeah, let's do the Frogman. The Frogman's really cool. That one was completely new to me, so I like it. So
what this thing is, we talked about it a little in the news story, is basically what it sounds. It's a bipedal frog-like creature. Most sightings report it being about 4 feet tall with leathery skin and what appears to be a frog-like face. So
I'm going to look that up. Because what is it?
Could be a frog, but it could be something else. It could just look like a frog.
That's what I was thinking.
But most people that have experienced a sighting of this, it's usually around a body of water. And oddly enough, it's mainly just been in Ohio.
Huh.
But they usually will see it like, wow, that's a giant frog, from a distance, and then it'll surprise them by standing up on its hind legs and walking.
That reminds me of a movie for some odd reason. What is that? Deuce Bigelow. I'm not going to quote the movie, but damn, that's a big frog. But I'm looking at it, and it's really interesting. There's actually a lot out there about it, and I had no idea. I'd never heard of the Frogman before.
So the first reported sighting of this thing was in 1955, and the tale goes that it was this. There's actually a couple versions of this tale. So the first version is that there's a traveling salesman going through, and he's heading through a darker side of town or on an unlit country road, and he happens upon a bridge. And on the bridge, he spots three figures standing upright, they're just standing there hanging out on the bridge, I guess. And they fit the description. They have leathery skin and frog-like faces. In the first account, it goes that they see him coming, and they just book it out of there. They jump over the guardrail of the bridge and disappear in the water. Now, the really weird version, I really want to hear what people think of this. This is the strange version. So we've got the traveling salesman going through again, except in this account, he comes across the three frogmen, and they're under the bridge. It's like an unlit bridge, and he's apparently on foot or on horse or something. And he's able to sneak up on this situation and actually observe them for a few moments, and they're speaking some weird language and just kind of conversing with each other. Wow. So the tale goes that one of them eventually notices that they're being watched, and they see him. Two of the frogmen, they take for the water, and the third one raises what he described as some kind of wand, some kind of stick or a wand or something and showered him with sparks. So actually shot some kind of projectile at him that blinded him with light, and then the creature was gone.
I would have never called that.
So now we're getting kind of into the supernatural realm again.
I want to say two things that I've noticed the stories tonight. A lot of them are coming out of Ohio. And Mookie Mook asks, "Is it seen near the Great Lakes?" Do you know if it has been?
I'm not sure, actually.
Okay. So far we've mostly got Ohio. Yeah. Okay.
Sightings still happen today, people, and it's mostly, at a very early time in the morning, 2 or 3 in the morning, when it's still very much dark, and like I said, near a body of water.
Mm-hmm.
They'll usually see the things in the water, looking around, or actually walking about on the bridge or under the bridge. Not sure why they like to hang out by the roadside, but
yeah,
it's weird characteristics of them.
From the photos, and of course they're obviously not real photos, but from what everybody has there, this is what it looked like, this is what I saw. And from the photos that have been drawn, it reminds me of a slee stack from Land of the Lost. For any of you out there familiar, it's actually quite similar to that.
Absolutely.
Man, I don't know what to make of it. I'm looking at it and wow, okay.
So, probably the most famous story, other than the Pokemon Go one that's making its rounds nowadays.
Yeah.
The most famous sighting happened back in 1972. And it was what lends some credibility to it is that it was a police officer.
Mm-hmm.
Take of that what you will, because I don't know really anything about this person besides their story. But it was a police officer named Ray Shockey. He was traveling back into town. He was out of town for some reason, coming back into Loveland on Riverside Drive, and something ran out in front of his vehicle and almost caused him to crash. It was during the winter, so it was kind of snowy out. But he got a good look at it, and it stopped and stared at him next to the bridge. And he gave the same description, like 4 feet tall and looked like a frog standing on its hind legs.
Yeah.
He started to exit the vehicle, but I guess it kind of knew or felt what he was going to do, and it took off running and jumped over the guardrail. But the manner that it did this with, I guess it kind of, the best way to describe it is it leapt over the guardrail and grabbed on with its hand or whatever,
mm-hmm.
and then lowered itself down. Because the next day, when they had light outside, he, reported what he saw to the station. They went out to investigate, and they found claw marks on the guardrail where this thing had jumped over.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So something had clearly damaged the bridge there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's his account. He insists on what he saw. 2 weeks later, this is the second piece of this, a different officer near the same bridge, his name is Mark Matthews, he reported seeing something injured laying in the middle of the road.
It was the Mothman being a lump in the road.
Yeah. Could have been. So he stops this vehicle with the idea that, he's going to get this injured animal out of the road or put it out of its misery, whatever he has to do.
Mm-hmm.
So he exits the vehicle and approaches it. As he gets near it, it sits up, looks at him, with a frog face.
Wow.
And then stands up. And it apparently did it in such a manner that it startled him. So he drew his weapon and actually took a shot at it. He wasn't sure if he hit it or not, but it seemed to kind of hobble away, mm-hmm. like it had been struck. And it leapt into the water and disappeared. Now his report to the station matched what was reported by Ray. So for years that kind of went on the books that, he saw the Frogman as well. Unfortunately, nowadays, he takes back his statement. He says that he thinks that this was somebody's pet lizard or something
Oh,
that was probably overfed or, an illegal exotic animal or something like that.
mm-hmm.
And he insists now that whatever it was scurried away on all fours and disappeared into the water.
No, that's a shame.
So, well, we talked about in an earlier episode how your mind tries to rationalize,
mm-hmm.
Strange things that you've witnessed. You look for any kind of possible explanation in reality. And it kind of sounds like that's what's happened here.
It does, yeah.
And, his name is out there on the internet for people that are into cryptozoology, to look up and then possibly contact him or try to bother him. So it could be an effort to kind of steer clear of that too. Maybe he wants to be left alone.
Yeah.
That could denying his story.
That's what I was thinking. He's probably been talked down to for so long. It's like, okay, it's not what I saw. You're,
Yeah.
that's the unfortunate truth. These days, we also discussed it. People are more open to it, but come on, things like that, I don't think people will ever open up fully to, unfortunately. We will, but,
That's about all we know about the Frogman. Whatever this thing is, it doesn't like people. It doesn't like being observed or interacted with. The only account of, violent behavior or malicious behavior is from the original story where the one drew, the magic wand and went all Harry Potter on that guy.
Yeah, it's Sparkler or whatever.
So that's the only real account of, basically the only account of interaction there's ever been. You hear stories of Bigfoot where we heard something at our camp or something threw rocks at us. There was some kind of interaction. With the Frogman, they don't want anything to do with us. So usually when people come across this thing, they usually sneak up on it so it's not sure it's being watched. But once it notices, that we see it, it takes off. They don't want anything to do with us. So maybe we should leave the Frogman to his peace.
We have a history of messing everything up. We do.
Yeah.
And that's what we talked about with aliens is if I were an alien, I would not want to be dealt with by man, that's for sure.
And if we get on to Bigfoot in a little bit, I don't know if you wanted to talk about that or not.
Sure,
I think really the same things going on there.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be an intelligent creature to observe,
right,
the destruction that mankind has brought to the world.
Absolutely.
So maybe they're smart enough to not want to be photographed or to hightail it when they know that people are within a certain radius of them.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that raises a fun point with the sparkler and things that on the second half of the show, I think
you think they have supernatural abilities,
maybe.
Or do you think that they robbed a fireworks store?
Yeah, I think he robbed Kick and Wing and took his snakes and sparklers. That's what I think. But no, it doesn't sound like this one does. Mothman on the other hand, that sounds maybe. But I think that's what we're going to kind of talk about here in a minute. Once we've kind of got through this here.
So has anyone in the chat kind of mentioned any favorites that they have?
No, but
none yet.
No, none yet. But it does look as though Nessie might be an interesting one. Since we do have Nessie on board with us. What do you know about Nessie? Do you believe in Nessie? What do you think?
So everyone's probably going to be disappointed in my stance on Nessie. Because, for much of my childhood, I was a believer in it. And I know that already sounds like I'm not going to take this to a good place.
Right.
But I think whatever Nessie is or was some kind of prehistoric remnant that has somehow survived the years. Probably more of an endangered species at that point.
But that really is kind of given legitimacy to there being something, and it's ancient, and That's really not a bad thing. I don't think you're breaking it down like, no, Nessie's not real and things like that. You're saying it very potentially could have been at least. So,
yeah, I'm of the camp that it probably was real.
mm-hmm.
I think when we look at the specific cases like Nessie of the Loch Ness and Champ of Lake Champlain, those sound like examples to me of a creature that somehow became trapped in those bodies of water.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, and I believe those are both freshwater lakes. So I guess the point I'm trying to get at is, I always felt watching documentaries about Nessie and things like that as a kid that,
mm-hmm.
you know, we're going to find this thing. We're going to find evidence of it. You know, by the time I'm an adult, we'll find this thing, whether it be a skeleton or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not really talking, and, you know, please, anybody out there that's like a Nessie enthusiast, please correct me if I'm wrong, you know, in any of my statements. But I think we have the technology now with sonar and everything to do pretty thorough scans of the bottom of these lakes, and I just don't know how it could hide anymore.
Well, I think the same could be said for Bigfoot, though, couldn't it? Really?
Yeah, the thing with Bigfoot is, you know, the United States is covered with forests everywhere. I think there's a larger area to flee to. But I think when it comes to the specific, you know, Nessie or Champ, they're kind of locked to those areas. Mm-hmm. Unless they left a long time ago. That could be the case, too.
That's what I was going to say, is we've discussed before about how the oceans are vast and there's so much uncovered. You never know. I mean, I don't know if it'd be capable, but I certainly think it's possible. I mean, I agree in the areas generally that we've thought of Nessie or whatever. I think generally you're right about that. I can't deny that, but I think there are other options.
Yeah, so I'm not closing the book on it. It's just one that I guess I've lost a lot of faith in.
Yeah.
Or I'm kind of discouraged about. You know, I really thought that there'd be more to it now, or we would still be seeing documentaries about it mm-hmm. being made. It's definitely one of my favorites. I loved hearing about it as a kid. So yeah, I'm kind of, I guess it's kind of bittersweet about Nessie.
Yeah, The Water Horse is a great movie. That's you know,
it's
not like it's historically accurate to people's, you know, descriptions necessarily, but it's a really good movie, and your heart bleeds for Nessie.
Now, if this creature has the ability, you know, if it's more like a mammal, and, you know, it really doesn't matter if it's in fresh or salt water, then I think it's more likely that, you know, it somehow escaped those bodies of water, because we do see strange accounts out in the open sea all the time. Have you seen the giant tadpole?
Yeah. I was actually going to bring up one that used to be a cryptid. So after we wrap up on Nessie here, I'll take that over if you don't mind.
Yeah. So yeah, that's about all I've got to say on Nessie. Like I said, I don't want to completely close the book on it.
Mm-hmm.
I really hope that somebody finds some new information.
Yeah, me too.
Somewhere. But as of now, I'm in a discouraged position.
It's one of those that your heart kind of falls in love with, and you want it to be. It's kind of you romanticize about it, and
yeah,
and you certainly can't rule it out. That's the coolest thing about it, is, you know. But this is cool. While one thinks of the Cyclops of Greek mythology and Cabanda of Southeast Asian lore, a rare creature dubbed a one-eye anomaly by National Geographic was discovered in 2011 and still continues to baffle scientists. The Cyclops shark was discovered by fisherman Enrique Lucero Leon and was instantly regarded as a cryptid and a hoax. However, after Enrique brought the specimen to the scientists, the Cyclops was found to be an actual, real animal. So talk about a one-of-a-kind discovery. The 22-inch long fetus had a single functioning eye at the front of its head. the hallmark of a congenital condition called cyclopia, which occurs in several animal species, including humans. Earlier this year, Fisher Enrique Leon, sorry, I was reading ahead. He legally caught a pregnant dusky shark near the Cerralvo Island in the Gulf of California. When he cut open his catch, he found the odd-looking male embryo along with its 9 normal siblings. He says, "That's incredible. Wow." Says Felipe Manana, I think. I'm terrible with names. I'm sorry, but
so
he goes on to say, like, we never would have expected this. We thought this was a hoax. There's no way this is true. And then we're slapped with proof. And that's why we find cryptids so damn cool, because it could eventually become something.
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's one of some will argue that that's one of the downfalls of cryptozoology, is when we find proof. Is it no more than like a genetic anomaly? Because there have been people, with giantism. Now there's a more correct medical term for that now, so I apologize about that. People that have grown over 8 feet tall. So people look at cryptids like the Thunderbird. It's just like a giant hawk, really. This is the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
Is that just an example of giantism in the animal kingdom? Did this creature just have, like a genetic disorder with its, I guess it'd be its pituitary system, to make it grow to that size? Is that what we're experiencing with things like the Thunderbird? Or even when you get into like La Chupacabra, I feel like what a lot of people find when they find, you see videos and evidence pop up all over the place. We've found it, and it seems to be, like, oh, that's like a hairless dog, or it's just a dog with deformities, or so. What I'm getting at is that's kind of one of the pitfalls of cryptozoology, is that we've got to, I guess, watch out for genetic anomalies.
Yeah, Starchild is one of those that sort of proves that.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good example.
I do want to say, though, if that is what it is, I mean, I don't think that it completely takes away any legitimacy. I mean, essentially, we discovered, the new, I don't know how to phrase it in a way that sounds both respectful to the science and respectful to the person or animal that it's happening to. But basically, I don't think that it'll take away from the fact that, it was great that we discovered and learned something, and it would prove to all these people that they're not crazy. There are upsides to it, I was just trying to see the bright light in the story, but I mean, I agree with you too. It does. And I'd say a lot of that's what's happened over time, unfortunately, but
I think when you're studying cryptozoology, the most important thing to remember is consistency.
That's it, yeah.
In nature too, just to make sure that, okay, you found this creature. Are there more of it? Can it be actually classified as a species? Or is it just an anomaly?
Right. Is it just a little different? What, how closely does it resemble something else? And I think that's where you have to start. Like, what did it look like? And that's what people always say there. Well, it kind of looked like an ape, so it was an ape-like creature, for example. And then, that's a good place to start. You need a base. And see how far it goes off base before you're into something completely new. And that's kind of when you'll know. Like Mothman, for example, that's very different from anything natural that we're aware of. So Mothman is really its own thing. And I think if anyone ever discovered it, and had proof, I don't think that it will tie to anything exactly.
Right.
But who's to say? I don't know. Well, when we come back, let's talk about, does Bigfoot have psychic abilities? Is that how he stays away from us? Does he duck us? If he does, I don't exactly blame him. And a little something different about Nessie. Something, maybe sad potentially, but you kind of already said it, but it's really just bringing up the topic of what if now there's nothing left to find of these things, unfortunately. What if we have missed our chances on other things? But we'll get into that in just a minute. I'm going to run a promo let's do an alien one. How about it? You want to? Ryan likes
Sounds
aliens.
good.
Let's do aliens. And then we'll be right back and we'll get back to it. So thanks everybody for hanging out with us. We appreciate it. And we'll be right back.
When the object kind of fades out, it's kind of a slow fade and then it's gone. The object's moving incredibly fast and then initiated some kind of like cloaking device. It's actually moving towards the space station.
Spookhouse Radio.
Yeah, Ryan wants to know if aliens are real. Simply, that's all he's here for. But no, we're here to wonder if lots of things are real. So, do these things that we wonder about, Ryan, do you think they have any powers?
So, if we're talking about Bigfoot,
Yeah, let's talk about Bigfoot.
I don't recall this being a theory, in my younger days, but some people believe now that Bigfoot may possess some sort of psychic abilities,
Mm-hmm.
in that more of like a defense mechanism. Because as we discussed earlier, humanity's not really... We're not very good friends.
No, we're not kind.
Kingdom. So I can totally understand why, something like Bigfoot would not want to be discovered. I personally don't want to be just dissected by aliens. So
Right.
I totally get where he's coming from. So some people believe that Bigfoot may possess these abilities to throw us off, or to kind of, I guess in a sense, cloak that they're even there.
Mm-hmm.
Some people have reported, hearing things in the woods, strange sounds, and they kind of press onward and to find out what it is. And then they end up feeling confused or forget why they were, doing that. And it's people, frequent hikers that are, they're not in an unknown part of the woods or somewhere they've personally never been, but they'll feel disoriented or kind of lose their direction.
Mm-hmm.
And, you can, I guess, point to things like dehydration and, being blinded by the sun thing for more official explanations of what happened there. But some people are suggesting that, that thing you were hearing in the woods that you tried to investigate may have been a Bigfoot, but you were caught in his psychic web and led astray.
That's interesting.
So,
I'd never heard of that. I guess
I think it's kind of a new thing.
Okay.
And some may argue that, you're kind of stretching things now to to keep Bigfoot alive, the theory alive that he's out there. But you can't. I don't have any evidence to say that that's not true.
That's true. Yeah.
But I don't know that you would really need psychic abilities to avoid us in the forest if that's your natural habitat. But I think that's largely why we've never, found a body or
Yeah.
tangible Bigfoot evidence. I know we've got lots of footprint casts and so-called feces, fecal samples. But
I mean, we do have a lot of photos. I'm going to say if he is ducking us, he's not doing the best job, but he's doing all right.
yeah,
He's doing all right.
So I feel like there's something still out there. There's something still to the Bigfoot.
It's the Sam Squanch, man. It is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've always thought, as a kid, you grow up and you think, well, sure, he's out there. Why wouldn't he be out there? There's things like that out there. And I think we never grew out of that. We grew a little more, I don't know, because, as you become an adult, you start thinking about all the angles of, well, if I'm going to go camping, I'm going to need plenty of water, and things like that. And you think he does have to survive.
Yeah.
I don't know. With all that hair and things, it just seems like people are finding him in like the hottest, most miserable places, but he could work completely different from humans. I don't know. I would be hard pressed to believe that he had any kind of powers. Because again, he is getting caught apparently occasionally anyway. We don't have any, like you say, I'm going to say the fecal matter is real, but I'm not going to say it's from him. It's just a guess, but.
Well, some people have kind of theorized that maybe North America has an ape, much like I explained earlier, there was that myth about an ape-like creature that eventually came to be known as gorillas.
Right.
So what if there is an ape to North America? And that's an interesting thing to think about too. If we did find Bigfoot or whatever, would we classify him as such? Would he get labeled, the North American gorilla?
Yeah. Well,
that's a really basic name, but you get what I'm getting at there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it could be, he could be assigned a name by doctors and be something you couldn't pronounce. But to put Bigfoot aside, do you think there are any creatures that say they're completely real, they're just ducking us? And then do you think there are creatures do you honestly believe there are things that we just haven't? And I don't mean like, different variations of things that we're well aware of, but do you think there are things that are just completely different, we've never witnessed? Do you think there are things out there like that? Like maybe, and this is a stretch, but something like a predator, just something completely different. So
could be. And, we don't fully understand what is visiting the earth now.
Right. That's it.
There's something called the Dakota Devil, I think. That actually resembles, what we would usually describe as a gray.
Wow, okay.
I think there are accounts of them running on like all fours or something like that.
I've heard of the Jersey Devil, but never the Dakota Devil. Yeah,
it's usually a hairless creature, completely pale skin, a larger head, and
sounds like
big
the
black
Wendigo
eyes.
A bit.
Yeah. So there is that, that could be completely extraterrestrial. We don't know what's visiting Earth now.
That's true. Yeah. That's what we're here for, is you can't really rule these things out. And we may make jokes, but I mean, people witness things, and who are we to say that they didn't? That's the thing,
Yeah.
You have to be open-minded. So, all right, well, let's say there are things out there. Let's just go ahead and agree on that, because I think we do. What happens when the trail runs cold? Do you think that these things, they ascend back to where they came from? Do you think they pass away? And why aren't we finding them if they are? Why haven't we found, like you said earlier, a body? Why haven't we seen a Yeti that was hanging off a mountain somewhere? Like, huh?
Yeah, I think that's kind of what we were getting at with Nessie. And like I was saying, I really think that we would have found some kind of evidence by now.
Yeah, if in the lakes, yes, I agree.
Of that creature existing. Yeah. With Bigfoot, one thing that you can take away from that is if they do live in families or in packs or tribes, they at least dispose of their dead. We can surmise that when one of them dies, they deal with it in some way. If there's been no evidence by now, Bigfoot, I'm trying to hold on to for longer. I think he's just a classic, and you want him to be real. But at the same time, I feel discouraged. Like, we would have found something by now, I would like to think.
Yeah. But
if you think about it scientifically, though, we can kind of come to the conclusion that, they're intelligent enough to bury their dead or do something with the bodies.
You raised the point that it wouldn't be out of the question. Not at all. And then you think about if you've ever witnessed anything at all paranormal, then that it seemed very unrealistic to you until it became realistic to you.
Right.
So I don't think most of these things that are that unrealistic. And I think the Cyclops shark from earlier, I think, even though it just turned out to basically be, it still has blowing scientific minds and things like that, even if it isn't a cryptid anymore.
Right.
So, yeah, it could be. I want to, give more definitive information about it, but I mean, here we still are.
The chupacabra. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah.
I think that there was something to that at some point, because you had all the stories of farm animals being attacked and drained of their blood, essentially. Something did that.
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
Whether it's the mythological chupacabra, we can't prove that, but some creature in the area drained their blood. I think what hurts the chupacabra myth is, I guess, people not understanding what animals are in the area, because you see this evidence pop up all the time, like, oh, they found a chupacabra carcass or something, and you see the photos and it's like, wow, that does look like another worldly animal, whatever that is. It looks really strange. And then the scientists will take it off, and it turns out to be some kind of dog or a wolf or something with deformities, I guess.
Yeah.
So that ends up being disappointing. But that leads to a different subject, because some people will argue, well, it was something, but science is hiding it.
Right.
Now, I raised the question, why would science or the government or anybody want to keep cryptids away from us? I think that's one of the realms of the paranormal, cryptozoology, where you can kind of take conspiracy theories out of the equation. Because I can't fathom a reason why the government would want to hide Bigfoot. unless Bigfoot does have these psychic abilities, and we send him on secret missions or something. We employ him sometimes to do this for us. But yeah, I can't. You can say the government is hiding aliens because it would cause mass panic or what have you. There's 100 different reasons you could come up with as to why a government would hide information like that from its people. But when it comes to cryptozoology, I don't think you can really make that point.
I agree with that. That one comes down to proof, point. Or proof versus theory. I mean, it's almost scientific, as you said earlier, by definition, really. Because some things do. I actually saw a list at one point during research for the show of things that were once cryptids, and there's actually a lot of things now that they're not cryptids anymore. And as you said, that has an upside and a downside.
Yeah, people think that science is being harsh on things like Bigfoot or Frogman, I guess. Like they're being dismissive of them, but science is the study of data. There has to be something to study, and fuzzy photographs and videos and things like that. That's not tangible data.
No, it's
that
not.
They can really get their hands on to understand what they're experiencing there.
Yeah, science is not necessarily the bad guy. It's not saying that. It does say in a lot of things that this can't be real. I'm not going to deny that, but it's not always the bad guy, especially when it comes to cryptids. It's often just we don't have anything to go on. That's the guy they are.
Yeah.
Not the bad guy so much.
And I'm sure you found examples of, okay, we did find this thing and it is real.
Uh-huh.
So they're like, okay, let's catalog that and give it an official name, and it's real.
Yeah.
They will absolutely accept Bigfoot or anything else that we find, with physical evidence.
Mm-hmm. Well,
so
yeah, I think there's going to come a day where these shows can probably continue forever, because we're always going to have these new theories and these new stories of things that there'll surely never be answers for.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can pass our shows off to our children someday, and they'll have new things but hopefully they'll have some answers to these things.
So let me ask you this, just personally.
Okay.
Do you think the theory that Bigfoot could have psychic abilities is interesting or compelling, or if there's anything to that? Or do you feel like that's kind of a stretch, like you're just trying to hang on to the Bigfoot myth and give him another tool for evading us? What do you think that theory is all about?
I do think that it's a stretch. I'm not going to say that it's not possible, because that's not what I'm here for any more than you, but I'm definitely going to say that I do believe it's a stretch. I don't know that it probably does have abilities outside of what you and I personally have.
Absolutely. I mean,
but that doesn't make it right.
That
doesn't make it necessarily, special powers. It's not exactly. It's still far removed from Harry Potter, as you said earlier.
Yeah. I mean, I think we fail to account the special abilities that the animal kingdom does have.
That's it. Yeah.
Look at your dog. Look at your cat. Your cat can see in the dark, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Your dog can hear and smell 100 times better than you can. A dog can sense a thunderstorm coming, like an hour before it gets here.
Right.
And, we touched on this a little bit, and I'm of the belief that, animals can sense, ghosts and other extra-dimensionally things.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we did. We definitely touched on that one, like episode 2, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's more to the animal kingdom than just, he's running through the woods and escaping us that way. I think we don't give Bigfoot enough credit.
Yeah. We dumb him down because we think we're the smartest. Yeah.
Basic animal ingenuity. Yeah.
So would now be a good time to welcome Megan onto the show. She actually, I'm not sure, she may be a little late on the subject matter, because I think it would have related better to the first half of the show, but she actually has a few things she wanted to bring up. And
let's hear it.
She's been doing a lot more research than you or I ever do. So,
absolutely. Let's hear it.
All right. So Megan, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Great. How are you guys doing tonight?
We're having a blast. I'm speaking for Ryan now. No, Ryan, how are you doing, man? You still doing good?
I am good. I'm still amazing. Still having a great time.
He's still amazing, and we still believe this stuff. Yeah. So
I've kind of, I think I've kind of exhausted my favorites. So I want to hear what you've got.
Hers are very different than ours. I think we hit on the kitchen table ones, the ones that everybody knows and can talk about. She's actually got some different ones. So go ahead, entertain us, inform us.
Well, I have to say I'm a little disappointed, because you guys have talked about Frogman, Mothman, what other man did you talk about?
Spring Hill Jack.
No, there was another.
What else did we talk about? We didn't talk about Batman, which we normally do offline.
Well, I had all this man stuff ready, because you didn't talk about Dogman.
We didn't. We did talk about huge spiders, which I know you're a fan of.
Oh my God, I heard that section, and I didn't want to hear anything about a dog-sized spider.
It's
actually those are absolutely real.
These are actually bigger than the dog size. These are twice as big. The Congo ones.
The monkey-sized spider.
I'll bring up a picture. You go ahead.
I don't want to see a picture. Oh God, no.
You go ahead and do your thing.
So I wanted to talk to you about Dogman. And there's different versions of the story around the country and, around the world. Specifically, I was going to talk about Michigan Dogman. And he's described as a 7-foot-tall, blue-eyed or amber-eyed bipedal canine-like animal with the torso of a man and the fearsome howl that sounds like a human scream.
Jeez.
Yeah. Sightings have been reported in several locations throughout Michigan, primarily in the northwestern quadrant of the Lower Peninsula. In 1987, Legend of the Michigan Dogman gained popularity when the disc jockey at WTCM-FM recorded a song about the creature and its reported sightings.
Wow, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you just came in here and flipped the table completely over. That's very different than where we went.
So, yeah, this Dogman it's not so much like a werewolf as it is, like Frogman. It's its own species. It's not,
I was going to bring up werewolves earlier, so I'm glad you at least mentioned it. Because they have a backing, people believe that they're very, very real.
Absolutely. And let me just see if I can find it.
Ryan, what do you think about the Dogman?
I mean, sure, it absolutely.
Now here's.
Sorry, I was having audio problems for a second.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Meg.
No, go ahead. Let's hear what you think so far.
Absolutely, I wouldn't dismiss that at all. That's actually the first I've ever heard of that, really.
See, me too. That's when she said werewolves, I guess I could, I've heard, of course, who doesn't know about werewolves, but the Dogman, that's definitely new to us.
Okay, so here's another version of the same kind of tale. It's the rougarou of the Cajuns in French Louisiana.
The rougarou.
Yeah. And this is another Dogman. Now, this creature is said to prowl the swamps and possibly the fields or forests of the regions. The rougarou is most often described as a creature with a human body and the head of a wolf or a dog, similar to the Dogman or the werewolf legend. Now, this story is often used to inspire fear and obedience in children so they don't go running off into the bayou.
Another one of those. Okay.
Yeah, it is. But there are definitely several eyewitness accounts of terrified people who have seen, something horrifying that they were, in fear for their life.
Do you think we hear the story so much that we believe these things exist and then we see them?
I don't know.
It's and I don't mean in the way that
coyote and think
that's what I was thinking.
That's so big.
Yeah, I was thinking that more than how we say that. Oh, does talking about it open it up? I didn't really mean it that way. I mean, literally, like, oh man, this animal was huge and it was disgusting, and then we see a slightly large coyote and we're like, oh my god, I saw it. There was the Dogman or whatever.
Oh, actually, this very thing happened with the Mothman. Because right after the first couple of incidents or with the Scarberry couple, all these reports came in around Point Pleasant, and a lot of them were attributed to barn owls. And people were just seeing what they wanted to see. But there were, really big barn owls.
I hope I never see a barn owl that big. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, but I get it. It does raise the point.
Yeah, you see a big thing that kind of fits the description.
Ryan, it sounded like you had something to say. Sorry to interrupt.
I think, say for example, we took a trip up to Point Pleasant to kind of look around. Yeah, I think in a situation like that, your mind is wanting to see something, where versus say like with a UFO kind of experience, when whatever you saw, you just couldn't wrap your mind around. I think it's different. That's two ends of the spectrum there.
Yeah.
Whereas, if we were up in Point Pleasant, we might see a barn owl, fly overhead, and you pretty much go there. Yeah. Well, you would make that trip to see the Mothman,
Right.
That's the whole point of making that trip. So your mind, you've opened up your mind to play tricks on you, I think, by doing so. So I think that's another kind of pitfall of cryptozoology, I think.
When you're going on so little, with so little proof, it's hard to, it just makes it difficult. Ghost stories and stuff are more compelling because it can happen at home, but then you hear stories from halfway across the country. You can't witness it. You know, you don't think it'll ever be near you. It becomes less real, I think.
Yeah. Same thing with people going on Bigfoot hunts. You know, you could be seeing a bear or a hiker, things like that. I think your mind is kind of wanting to see something.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes kind of an extraordinary experience, I think, to really make someone believe.
Yeah, I think so. Megan, did you have any more?
I do.
Okay.
And I actually want to go kind of in a different direction. You guys were talking about previous cryptids that have been, you know, found and discovered and named and filed and put away in the cabinet as real live creatures. I want to talk about one that came from the files of history and then went extinct, but now is back. Have you heard of a thylacine, Ryan?
I have. I know where you're going with this.
Yeah. So the thylacine, also known as a Tasmanian tiger, the last one known was in a zoo and it died about 8 decades ago. Now this thing, it's got this giant jaw. If you ever saw one, it's unmistakable. If you know, there are reports people have been seeing them around, and this is a creature that's from Tasmania, or there's been sightings in Australia. You know, that's right next door. But there's a new video. It actually came out August of last year, and I haven't watched it. I just pulled this up, but it looks like it's good quality video. And it's been, you know, a topic on local news down there that it has returned, you know, that it never actually went extinct. It just kind of, you know, retreated into the woods where it was hunted out so much because they tried to, you know, kill it off. It was a predator down there.
Nature finds a way.
Yeah, I've seen the video. Yeah. I've seen it. I mean, I don't know.
It's a tiger.
Yeah, I didn't know what to make of it then.
No, I mean, I don't think we've seen this one.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
Have you?
Yeah, I've seen that one.
Oh, okay. Well, just kidding. He already knows.
No, you're judging what I saw. No, but no, I saw that video and I was like, wow, okay. I try not to, you know, judge it too harshly because I wasn't there, and I don't know. It looks pretty legit to me.
Yeah.
So I'll just go with that.
I'm not sure if this is something that I believe in because there's enough proof, or I believe in because I want it to not be dead. You know?
It's interesting because it's an animal that was real without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, and then became a cryptid.
Yeah, it became a cryptid for that reason. So now it's hopefully going to become real again.
Yeah.
That's definitely very flip side of what we've been talking about. So that's cool.
We shall see.
Mm-hmm. Are there any more?
Well, I did want to talk, and this is a completely different direction, but I was thinking, I wanted to talk about dragons.
Dragons, all right.
I don't mean fire-breathing crazy dragons, but I do think that with Nessie and that sort of thing, that there's evidence to support that dragons of some sort were real. Back when King Arthur was protecting princesses and all the such. Because if you look at monitor lizards like Komodo dragons or goannas, they can get pretty big. And they had one called the Megalania that could grow up to 23 feet
Jesus.
in length.
Monitors are terrifying anyway. They're super strong and fast.
And they got
mean.
big old claws.
Yeah.
I just wanted to, you know, this is more of just posing a question. Do you think that a lizard like that could have been misidentified when they were talking of dragons? Or are dragons completely outlandish and not real at all?
Well, you know, dinosaurs were actually misunderstood to be dragons when, you know, people would uncover, you know, the fossils of a dinosaur in ancient times.
Right. Which, I guess this also kind of brings up alligators and crocodiles. Those are still real live dinosaurs.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're so mad because
So-
the new Loveland got a mama shed it's because they can't brush their teeth.
That's right.
They got all them teeth and they can't brush them. Yeah, I went to Waterboy. That's what's up.
You sure did.
But no, go ahead. You're right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right about things like alligators
would-
and crocodiles.
They would uncover dinosaur fossils and misinterpret that as, a recently deceased dragon. Which is, if you've been to a museum and seen the skeleton of these gigantic creatures, I can see how you would draw that conclusion, back then.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, the things we're talking about now and we're calling the Frogman and things may just be later on. It may just be part of history and there may be science to it,
Yeah.
I mean, this could essentially just be the dinosaurs of 100 years from now.
Yeah, and I did have one last thought on the subject. We've been talking about terrestrial cryptids tonight. I know you posed the question at the beginning of the episode, are aliens and ghosts considered cryptids? I do believe reptilians would be considered a cryptid because those are thought to have been from the earth, just underground. I was going to throw that thought at you guys,
Okay.
see what you thought about that.
It's a good thought.
So the theory goes that they are of Earth too, and eventually their race, I guess, became advanced enough to leave the Earth and are now observing us from the skies. And some people think infiltrating us from within, with shapeshifter type attributes, I guess.
Well, I'd actually
depends
heard
on-
of it a different way, not that they ever left, but that they, went underground, that they were evolved from a species of dinosaur that was the intelligent, top of the food chain where humans are now, that they were back in, I don't know which era, I'll say Jurassic just because that's the only one I know, but that they found a way to go underground instead and have evolved since then to become a very intelligent creature that is still around.
Chud, bro.
Yeah, Chud.
Well, I do recall a story of somebody heading, out to the desert again on a bike, and he brought a rifle along with him just so he could shoot at rocks, and if he got bored while he was camping out there, or if any coyotes came by. So this account goes that this guy rides his bike out and he discovers a cave, and not thinking anything of it, he goes inside to explore it and everything, and he finds evidence that something has been living there. So as he exits the cave, he sees a figure standing in the entrance in the light.
Ooh.
And from what he could tell, appeared to be scaly, but was wearing, kind of primitive clothing. He thought somebody was messing with him. So he yelled at it and it ran off. But he camped there that night, not in the cave, but, kind of close, and something was messing with him during the night, making weird noises and things like that. And he finally saw this thing again, and he took a shot at it, and he thought he hit it because it made like a yelp and then retreated into the cave. He followed it in, and the big mistake was doing this in the dark, in the night. And he was surrounded by hissing noises, much like a lizard would do, when it's being cornered.
Mm-hmm.
And something slashed his shirt, tore his shirt open, and he took a shot in the dark and fled. But he left his camping equipment there and just took off on his bike back for home in the dead of night.
Yeah, I'd imagine
because
so.
of this thing. So that's kind of an account of a lizard man sort of thing that I read about.
Well, we're about short a rocket, man, and then we'll have them all. That's about it.
So I think we've kind of broadly covered the gist of cryptozoology.
Mm-hmm.
I think, what we can kind of do now is sort of shelve the topic until until I can get somebody with a personal account to come speak to us.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I've heard a few accounts of some ape-like creatures in this region that have messed with people, and some weird sightings. So I think we've kind of given everyone the gist of cryptozoology and what that's about, really.
And if we missed any of your favorite cryptids, please let us know. Send us an email or a comment on the website. Let us know what your favorite cryptid is. Maybe we'll re-talk about the subject.
Yeah, we're going to get, this is we've been doing a series of shows. It's like an intro to said topic, aliens or ghosts or now cryptids.
Cryptids
and
101.
We're going to actually get, break it down and get more into the details of specific ones. So if there's any that, you're really interested in, be sure to let us know and maybe we'll tackle that one as well.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it does.
I hope to hear from them.
For sure. So I guess for tonight, that'll be our main subject. What do you think? I think we talked it enough. I think we did our 101 on it.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay. So everybody feels good. Megan, did you get to say everything you wanted? Did you get to add all of yours in?
Yeah, I think I pretty well covered it.
Okay. Well, good. So.
Oh, wait. No, I lied. Yucca Man. Have you heard about Yucca Man?
No, I have not.
So Yucca Man is the desert Bigfoot.
Huh.
Which I'm just
gonna.
Desert
Man.
Yeah.
Golly.
I'll just mention his name and then maybe we'll talk about him in a Wood Booger episode.
We need to just take an episode on the desert.
Yeah. A lot out there because we don't want to be there, so they've got plenty of room to grow.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've not heard of him, but there's another one for the list. Interesting. I didn't know there was a desert Bigfoot. That's cool.
And he's actually just as hairy.
Okay. Ugh. That'd be terrible there in the desert.
You'd think.
So, I mean, you can take, if you take anything from tonight, that there could be this whole race of, hairy creatures that really don't want anything to do with us at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's plausible.
It is very plausible. It's very true. Well, yeah, so let's go ahead and put the subject to bed for the night, and we'll get back to it. I want to propose next week's episode right now.
Let's hear your proposal.
And just see what you all think about it. I want to take on Chernobyl.
Ooh.
I've been hungry for that one, and that'll be our first specific one. What do you guys think of that?
Absolutely. That
Sounds
one's fun. Well,
okay.
I feel disrespectful. That wasn't a fun thing to happen, but it's something that has intrigued me.
I don't
for a long
think
time.
It's an interesting subject, and there are a lot of unknowns there.
There are, and I think we can definitely talk about that for a little while. So instead of a commercial this time, I just want to say that the Fanboy Expo in Knoxville, Tennessee, is coming up this next weekend, not tomorrow. No, it's actually coming up the 23rd to the 25th. I'm sorry. And there are still tickets available. And let me tell you why I think you need a ticket. I don't have a ticket, but I want a ticket. But here's why you need a ticket. Because the Karate Kid, that's why you need a ticket. The Incredible Hulk, C. Thomas Howell of The Outsiders and The Hitcher and E.T., Lonnie Anderson, Jason David Frank, Amy Jo Johnson, Ryan.
Joey Fatone.
Joey Fatone, Chris Kirkpatrick. They're having a Chips reunion. Kevin Sorbo, Sting, Scott Steiner, Lita, Jim Duggan, the Hacksaw, Van Vader, The Voices, Skeletor, Alan Oppenheimer, Tom Cook. Yeah, and so many cool people. A G.I. Joe cast reunion. And in October, they're having another one, and they're going to have the Sarge himself. They're going to have Sergeant Slaughter.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're also going to have Kyle Reese of The Terminator and Barry Williams as Greg Brady. Linda Blair as Reagan, of course, from The Exorcist. Marky Ramone of The Ramones. And Tiffany. Think we're alone now. Yeah. Yeah. And then Jimmy Walker. Come on. Good times, man. And then last but not least, they've got on their page of Pete and Pete, Danny. He's the man. I love Pete and Pete, right? The Mighty Ducks. How cool is that? So if you can't make this one, you should make that one. If you can, you should make both. We're not getting paid. I don't even have a ticket myself. But we talked about the Gene Simmons petting zoo. We won't go back into it.
Oh, Lord.
But you can go and get petted by Gene Simmons, and I think they have tickets for that still. Let me check. I don't want to be a liar. They're sold out of the Gold VIP and the Friday night concert, but that doesn't mean you can't still meet Gene Simmons. So,
all right.
Yeah, 3-day weekend's just $50, but it's all 3 days, which is super cool. That's not that bad. I don't know, how much it'll charge. They'll charge, I'd say a lot of people will sign for free, if I were to guess. They seem like a pretty good panel of people, and not the kind who are going to charge you $50 and you stand in line all day.
Yeah.
I think it'll be really well done, and they're letting in like cops for free, so it'll be very safe, and it'll be a lot of fun. And that's in Knoxville, Tennessee, June 23rd to the 25th.
So did
Nice.
I hear Skeletor on his way down there earlier this evening?
Yeah,
You did.
You did. You heard Skeletor indeed. He is becoming a
Stopped
close
by.
personal friend. Yes, he did stop by. All right, so last week or the week before, I was trying to play my little corny minute and a half version of the Amityville haunting. Let me go ahead and play that for you this week, since we're not currently having technical difficulties. And then, and then we'll come back. We'll take a couple of listener questions, run the poll, and we'll be out for the night. Is everybody in a good place?
Sounds good.
All right, well, let's do it.
Let's hear this spooky story.
Let's hear it. We'll be right back. The Amityville haunting is perhaps the most famous ghost story in America. Ronald DeFeo Jr. was convicted for the 1974 killing of his mother, father, and 4 of their children at their home in Amityville, New York. Reports indicate that the gun Ronald used didn't have a silencer, and there was no sign of a struggle inside the house. Facts that left investigators puzzled. In 1975, a new family, the Lutzes, moved into the Amityville home, having bought it at a very discounted price. They lived there for less than a month, and during that time voices were heard around the house. Their daughter developed an imaginary friend with a red-eyed pig called Jody. The house attracted swarms of flies that were banging on the walls, and the furniture was said to move on its own. Paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren were called to investigate, and they also reported encountering paranormal phenomena. Ed Warren said he was pushed to the floor of the basement by an unknown force. The house still stands today, although recent owners say it's not haunted. The 1977 book The Amityville Horror and a number of films are based on the story, and they very much say it is haunted.
Spookhouse Radio.
We do love a good ghost story around here. I think that's safe to say. We need I promise to do lengthier, more, less heard of ones, but we do love a good ghost story, and that's the point. All right. So listener questions this week. We've got a couple of good ones. Ryan, I will let you, you know what? We never let Megan do anything first. Megan, why don't you take the first listener question this week?
All right, I feel special.
You should.
So, what official explanations for paranormal activity really rub you the wrong way? I mean, like swamp gas, flares, military crafts, and etc. And this question comes from Carrie Price.
Well, Carrie Price, thank you for listening and writing in. That's awesome. What do you all think? I hate to go first because,
No, go ahead.
Well, she kind of nailed them for me there. I think what annoys me the most is how fast officials are willing to step in and completely dismiss something.
it completely undermines the person, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And a lot of the explanations just don't fit at all.
Right.
Like, I want to say you remember the Phoenix Lights incident?
Yeah.
I think the military said that it started out as a military craft, and they launched some test flares. So what people apparently saw flying around in V formation over, this huge area, hundreds of people seeing, were flares. Like,
Sure.
Well, can't flares fly?
Of course they can.
So, but people reported this V formation of lights, flying along and then stopping, hovering over residents and moving along, and there's just all kinds of accounts that it just doesn't fit.
Mm-hmm.
A flare? Come on,
Right. Woo! Like Ric Flair? That's not fair to Flair.
It's not fair to
Yeah,
Flair.
don't undermine him. Undermine. What do you think, Megan?
Well, I have now it's a pretty specific incident, and I got to do a little bit of explanation, but if you'll bear with me.
Yeah, we still got about 6 minutes left, so go ahead.
Okay, so we talked a few weeks ago about the giant skeletons that have been found throughout the world, and there was one. It was found, I believe, in New Mexico, and it was in the 1800s, and I think the 1890s, really, so toward the end. But the Smithsonian paid $500 to get this skeletal remains, and I think it had like actual body part or like skin was still on it as well. And they paid $500 to get that to the Smithsonian. And now for that time, that's the equivalent of paying $15,000 to have this specimen delivered to their museum to put on display. Mm-hmm. And they had this on display for a couple years, and I think it was maybe a 12-foot tall specimen. And they all of a sudden did testing on it and said it was a hoax, that it was made out of gelatin, and took it down.
No refunds.
No refund. I mean, they had expert people out there looking at it, making sure it was the real deal, paid the equivalent of $15,000, and then all of a sudden said it was made of gelatin.
That is an expensive cryptid experience.
Yeah.
Well, another piece to that, they've said that they no longer have those pieces, that they've lost these skeletal remains.
Yeah, where did they lose them to?
Yeah, so
that's something we've discussed before.
Yeah.
Things just go missing.
And I've always kind of been a believer that, the giant skeletons have been something otherworldly, that it kind of ties into the whole extraterrestrial theory.
At least other dimensionally, yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I'm sure they did testing and they found out something, but I have a hard time believing that this was made of Jell-O and that's why they called it a hoax.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, to get back to the question, I will say, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to keep us kind of on time here.
I know, I was kind of on a soapbox.
No, you're fine. I think the one I hate the most is you're tired, or there's mold and it's making your brain perceive things that are this or that, or you're too near a pipe and that's all the banging in your house. There's no way, the pipe opened the door, the swelling of the sun caused your door to swing open violently. That stuff irritates me.
I mean, those explanations are more far-fetched than what actually happened sometimes.
Yeah, in most cases they are, and that's
so a swelling pipe, or the air rapidly cooling for some reason caused your doorknob to start shaking violently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A swelling pipe said, "Get out of my house." So, thank you, Carrie Price, for writing in. That was a great question.
Yes,
and
thank you.
If we had more time, we would go more into it, but I'm sure we will later, so listen in for that. Second question is the government hiding extraterrestrials from us, or is it more of a shadow government calling the shots there? And that is from Brad.
Well, Brad, we kind of just talked about how they're hiding something from us that we believe is extraterrestrial proof in those gelatin skeletons.
Waldo is an alien, and he's being hidden.
I think, I really don't want to get political here. I think that there being some sort of shadow government and an Illuminati, if you will.
I think that's more conspiracy than political. Don't worry about it.
Well, what I was going to say, what kind of leads me to believe that is our current commander in chief. You've always heard when we were kids, like, oh, when you get to be president, then they show you the aliens. You get to go to Area 51 and see some bodies, and you get to see all those secret files. And again, not to get political or anything, but Donald Trump would have tweeted all of that out.
That's true.
If any of that was true, unless he's the special exception. Like, we're not going to show Donald Trump.
Yeah, he uses the Twitter. Yeah, he uses the Twitter.
It's either that or, I think some kind of shadow organization kind of calling the shots and keeping all of that under wraps. For what agenda? Who can say, really?
That's it, yeah.
Is it Cobra?
Probably, it could be. I think it, if you look at our technological advancements, some people argue that, the leap we made to the smartphone age and everything in such a short period of time is as a result of us having these extraterrestrial technologies and trying to engineer them ourselves,
Yeah.
So I think the shadow government's purpose there might be to serve corporations. We've got this technology, and we don't really want to disclose the existence of this stuff or aliens to the public because we're not done milking it yet.
Right.
For profit.
So yeah, I definitely, Brad, I'll tell you, I do believe that, sir. I do believe they're hiding it from us.
Yeah, I'm with you, Brad.
Yeah. So thank you, Brad, also for writing in.
And I think just a final point to that.
I'm sure. Yeah. Go ahead.
I think the ones doing the hiding would have to be a shadow government because we would have had whistleblowers by then.
Yeah.
By now, to blow the cover off of things. You hear stories about like Men in Black, telling people, you better not talk or else, you didn't see anything here. Don't say anything. But how far does that really, somebody on their deathbed would be like, I don't care anymore. I'm going to die. So
we see those videos.
Here's all of this, whatever. I don't care at this point.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think that lends more credibility to a shadow government.
I agree. Well, let us take on our final cut real fast. First, the results of last week's poll are aliens win with 42% of the votes. Ghosts fall in second with 33%. Cryptozoology with 25%, and there were no skeptics who voted. That or they were skeptical of the poll itself and just didn't vote. So, all right.
I don't think we've had any skeptical listeners yet.
No, I don't think so. Not yet. No one has said anything being skeptical just yet. But
don't worry, skeptics. We're not going to be mean to you.
Yeah, we won't be mean to you. So, final cut. A final cut's exactly what it sounds like. A last-minute hack and slash at a final question that we'll all answer, and we'd love you to answer it as well. Of these so-called real-life monsters, what do you think has the biggest possibility of being real? Bigfoot, the Mothman, Nessie, or Chupacabra? What do you think? Megan?
Well, seeing as we've been talking about Bigfoot, the wood booger, and all of his yucca man cousins,
Yeah.
I think I'm going to go with Bigfoot.
Okay. Well, Ryan, what do you think?
I'm going to go with Bigfoot as well for reasons that... because I stated earlier that, I also believe that the Mothman is like an extra-dimensional kind of being. So
yeah,
I really don't know if we'll ever find proof of that.
Right.
Yeah.
I believe in it myself, but as for something that could be proven at some point or something that at least the one that seems more tangible than the rest, I would go with Bigfoot.
Yeah, Bigfoot seems to be the most talked about, so most likely, But I'm going to go with the Mothman because I just want to see that bomb be dropped one day. I just want to see that happen.
I would be terrified to see that
Mothman.
bomb be dropped.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be scary.
Maybe the Mothman will be our whistleblower.
It's true.
Oh, no.
It's
Maybe
true.
he'll come and blow the lid off of all the stuff that's being hidden.
Him and all of his barn owl buddies.
It's true. Well, it's been a fun show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Always hate to see them go, but we can't rattle on forever. We'll never have anything else to talk about.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's been fun. I hope everybody's had as much fun as we have. Have you had fun, Megan?
I did. I wish I got to have more fun for the rest of the episode.
Well, it happens. At least you get to show up before it's all over.
Yep. Show up for a little bit of the party.
Just a little bit of it. Ryan?
We'll be back.
Yeah, that's true.
Guys, thanks for listening in. Again, it really means a lot to us. I appreciate everybody hanging out in the chat and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks for coming and seeing us. And as always, head over to midnightspookhouse.com. Follow us on Twitter at The Spookhouse and Facebook at The Midnight Spookhouse. As of this week, we're on Spreaker and MixLR, both of which have websites and apps. And next week, we'll probably do the same thing. So come hang out with us again, talk to us, send us emails, write us letters, snail mail, however you want to do it.
Yep, and don't forget to go vote on the poll.
Yes, please go vote on the poll, because we care and we love you and we want to hear what you got to say. So, for myself, I want to say goodnight and thanks again. Anybody else want to say goodnight?
Good night.
Hey guys, thank you again. Have a good night.
Ain't nothing new here gonna grow. Oh, baby, ran that water till it froze. Baby, ran that water till it froze. Ain't nothing new here gonna grow. Baby, ran the water till it froze. Baby, ran the water till it froze. Ain't nothing new here gonna grow.